Yeah, we're live. Cool.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, guys, just getting started again. Here's a nice Sunday afternoon here in Tampa, Florida. I'm just going to go ahead and start sharing with our groups here briefly, so give us just a minute as we get our housekeeping done here. Oh, did I hire a housekeeper?
Yeah, where's my housekeeper?
Where's your housekeeper? Oh, I see it. So let's go ahead and share it with a couple other groups here. I'll do autoimmune and autism.
I did that one group. Easy
Okay,
keto.
super. All right, guys, getting started here. I'll share it up. I'm going to share it myself here.
Did you share it with all first? I don't have to.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Share with our own group again, just in case.
I'll just share it to my
Personal.
person. Yeah.
All right, guys. Hey, well, Shauna's joined.
Of course I am.
All right, guys. Well, it's been a couple weeks again, but we are back, and you might hear some thunder in the background because we live in Florida, and
And that's why we're coming from our living room.
Yeah, that's why we're in our living room today instead of outdoors, because we don't really want to get a lightning storm while we're videoing. Also, there's a risk of us losing power during the broadcast as well, but
So
sure
we may
we'll be
lose you. So hopefully not.
we're here in our living room, and the topic today is, does keto have to be perfect? We're seeing a lot
Everybody's different.
We're coming up now on our 1 year point. Our 1 year ketoversary is August 1st. So we're kind of going from the point where we used to be, for beginners to now that we're actually becoming more keto veterans in this respect. So we're hoping we can provide some guidance and some ways that you guys can benefit and see how you can do this long term, right? And so you'll see a lot of people out there that are termed as the Keto Police that get really super critical if you eat something that's not on their prescribed list. Like maybe if you add some beef jerky or something that had 2 carbs in it or something, and they're like, oh, that's not keto. But we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit today about how exactly do we define keto, right? So a very simple definition of what a ketogenic diet is that you're eating few enough carbs, right, that you are using fat for your energy instead of carbohydrates, instead of sugar. So you're a fat burner instead of a sugar burner. And that's different for different people, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're a professional athlete and you're just working out all the time,
need a lot more
you can. Well, you don't need, but you can use a lot more carbs than the average person who's not a professional athlete, right? So one person I have an example is Danny Vega, and we went and saw him a few months ago
Amazing
at a keto event, and he's full professional athlete, and he can stay in ketosis at 150 grams of carbs per day. That's not me, right? But that's him particularly, right? So for him, a ketogenic diet means that he has to eat 150 grams of carbs or less a day. But then Dr. Westman has done some studies, Dr. Eric Westman, and they've actually done the trials where about 50% of people can be in ketosis if they eat 50 grams of carbs total or less a day. That's half the people. So again, that's not everybody, that's half the people. And then he also looked at if people ate 30 grams of carbs a day, that's 75% will be in ketosis. However, if you eat less than 20 grams of carbs a day, total, not net, total, there's a 100% chance that you will be in ketosis, right? It might take a day or two to get there, but if you are consistently at 20 grams or less a day, every single person that does that will be in ketosis. So that's just what keep in mind, that the definition of a ketogenic diet is really, it's the fact that it's an extremely low carb diet. Now, if you eat more fat, you might, if you ever get a ketone meter, you might have a higher ketone reading than somebody that eats just low carb. But the fact that you have a higher ketone reading doesn't necessarily mean that you are burning more fat than the person that has a lower ketone reading. As long as you are 0.5 millimolars of ketones in your blood at any time, then you are considered to be in ketosis. If you have 0.5 versus 2.5, because you have 2.5 millimotors doesn't mean that you are burning more fat than the person in 0.5. Let's just keep in mind that by eating more fat or maybe even taking exogenous ketones, you're going to have higher ketone readings, but the point is that your body's going to be utilizing those ketones instead of the ones that you create when you just keep your carbs down and you start burning your own fat. Not saying that, I'm totally against eating more fat or exogenous ketones. The point is that if you're,
we did it first.
Yeah, I didn't exogenous ketones, we had more fat. But the point is, if you want to burn your own body fat, you want to, burn your own body fat, not you're going to be taking on more of that your body has to consume first. I mean, there's even an order of operations, right? If you're eating carbs, your body's going to burn the carbs first. If you're eating more carbs or more fat, then your body's going to have to burn that exogenous fat first before it gets to your own fat. Hello, Paulinus. Welcome aboard. Our friends Metro Goes Keto are with us here. So the point is, afternoon, right? It's afternoon even for us. Yeah. So the point is higher levels of ketones doesn't necessarily mean that you're better off. It's just that you want to be in mild ketosis at least and stay there consistently. So again, more fat means if you're taking in more fat, that means you're having excess energy. And just like if you're eating too many carbs, your body's going to store that excess fat. So the point is try to burn your own body fat first, not taking on extra energy sources. You have to do more. Right. Hello from Athens. Yeah, I know you guys are having a good time in your travels for the summer. That's great. I've been kind of following you guys a little bit. Shauna has more than me. I've been a little bit busier, so I haven't been able to as much. All right, so how do we do it, right? So we're saying that you don't necessarily have to focus on fat. We're not macro people, right? We're not people that say you have to have 75% fat, 20% protein, and 5% carbs. We do it instead of counting the macros, is we eat fatty cuts of meat and non-starchy vegetables exclusively. Right. And we do that until we're full, and
only eat when we're hungry.
Right. So we're not snacking all the time, right? A snack is a rare thing for us. It's not we're eating 5 or 6 times a day, right? So you have to miss our funny comments. Well, I'll try to make more of your videos or calls for sure. So we're not eating, we're not hungry, and we're also the only macro that we're really paying attention to is that we're keeping our carbs less than 20 per day. And by eating, and we don't have to count those, right? Because we're eating almost exclusively meat and vegetables. It's really actually hard to get to 20 grams if that's all you're eating, right? So there's that. All right. So next would be food quality, and this is not going to necessarily be popular with everybody in the keto world. We're making this, right? Because this is about sustainability for people that can stay on keto for a long time, right? So yes, is it better to eat grass-fed, grass-finished beef? Yes, it is better. But not everybody can afford that, right? It's not practical or even have it available for you. So if you're looking at your level of choices, right? So if you have grass-fed, grass-finished, and you have a great availability and it's affordable for you, yeah, get it. If you have to then, if you don't have that or you can't afford it, then regular meat is better than eating Twinkies and pastas and rices and cakes. It's much better, right? And it's still going to keep you less, because remember, our goal here is to stay under 20 grams of carbs per day, right? So that's how we do it. We do have a local butcher that we use a lot, but we also supplement our meat from Aldi and Walmart and things like that where it's affordable. We eat a lot of lamb, by the way, too, and lamb is typically grass finished, and lamb is very affordable at Walmart where we're at, and so we get that too. So. Organ meat is very inexpensive too. Good point, Paulinus. And actually, I love liver. I'm strange that way, but I do. And we found a nice recipe that we use, which is what's on the Paleo Chef site. It's called bangin' liver.
Bangin' liver.
Awesome. It's got jalapenos in it. And
I'm not a huge fan of liver, but made that way I can eat it.
And we have a sous vide also. So if I put the sous vide, the liver, either beef liver or chicken liver in the sous vide for 5 hours, it's so tender and it just tastes really good.
It doesn't. It's not as chewy as.
Yeah.
When you just cook it up.
Yeah, and lamb heart is the best. I haven't tried lamb heart, but if I can find it, I'll do it. sounds fine to me. I like chicken hearts. I like beef hearts. So lamb hearts sounds great. So yeah, I mean, food quality it is important, and I also have to remember Dr. Peter Ballestead. He's a guy. He's grass-based on Twitter. You'll find him. He's done a lot to help push forward changing the way that we farm here in the United States and around the world. And he's trying to get it so that there is more grass-finished possibilities here, and it's actually pretty sustainable. But even what he's saying is that even factory farm, the difference in nutrition between grass-finished and factory farm beef is pretty minuscule. It's better on the animal to be grass-finished. But as far as a dietary perspective, it's not like exponentially better to eat grass-finished. It's just better for the animal.
It's just less cruel.
Yeah, it is less cruelty, right? And what's one thing that's very true about the way we eat is if we're eating, primarily beef, it's what we primarily eat, one animal could feed Shauna and I for a whole year, right? So if that is your reasoning for the way you eat, is if you're feeling about animal cruelty and things like that, one cow a year is a lot better than 25 chickens a year, right? I mean, chicken's fine too, but I'm just saying if that's your goal, a beef focused diet.
And we eat less and less chicken. So.
Yeah, don't eat much of it.
We don't eat much.
All right, so the next thing we're talking about perfect keto here, right? So do you have to be perfect? The next one is fat sources, and primarily let's look at oils. All right, so we know that pretty common knowledge now that across the board that trans fats are bad, right? You don't want to consume those. I mean, those were pretty much invented by the Crisco company back in the early 1900s, right, where they took a industrial product, being cottonseed oil, that was basically hydrogenated, chemically hydrogenated, and put it into our food supply. Really not a great thing, right? So if you can avoid using those, and by the way, that stuff shows up in fast food restaurants here in the United States. That's what they fry, like all your French fries and your chicken nuggets and all that is fried in trans fats in that Crisco. And it just gets worse along the way because they keep reusing it, right? They keep heating it back up and it keeps breaking down and it gets more oxidized along. So it's just always giving, it's getting worse and worse for your body as you use it because they may change it out once or twice a week. All right, so trans fats, definitely try to avoid those. And the best way to avoid those is, don't eat French fries. Don't eat things that are at a fast food restaurant. Other oils to avoid that are, not great would be soybean oils, canola oil, corn oil, any of the seed oils, right?
They cause inflammation too.
Well, and there's a reason that they cause the inflammation, right? It's because of how the stuff is processed, right? It's not easy to get oil out of corn. It's not easy to get oil out of canola. And the way they do it is they have to add solvent, right? They have to add a petroleum solvent called hexane, which is basically like gasoline. So you're adding oil, gas to your product to get oil out. So it's not even efficient. So that's not great. They're adding a lot of heat. So that's oxidizing that oil. And then when they're done processing that, it stinks. So then they have to cleanse it with bleach, right? So here you've got gasoline, heat, and bleach. To process, these oils that are not, products that are not easy to get oil out of, right? So it's just not great. So it does have those type of things. It's also high in omega-6s, and listen to Amy Berger, who's a keto nutritionist. She wants to put the practical back in keto as well. So do we need omega-6? Actually, we do need some omega-6s in our body because we can't produce it ourselves. You want a higher omega-3 to omega-6 ratio, but omega-6 alone is not necessarily a bad thing. It's oxidized omega-6. And Ivor Cummings is another person who's done a lot of research on this, where he's actually looked at like omega-6 that you get that naturally occurs is not damaging your body. It's this processed stuff, this corn oil, seed oils. When they take it through all that heat, it creates a damaged omega-6. That damaged omega-6 then does not react well to your body, and that's why people end up having to take antioxidants, right? Because the oxidation that occurs in your body. So, but naturally occurring omega-6 is not necessarily as bad as the processed stuff. But if you can eat, sardines and salmon and things like that are higher in omega-3s, even lamb, I think they call lamb the lamb salmon because it is higher in omega-3s than most meat. So if you can just kind of keep those ratios, right? Keep those ratios up as best as you can. Don't fear naturally occurring omega-6s. I think the science is not settled on that respect, right? I think what we've seen is we have high omega-6s in our diet, but it's also contaminated omega-6s. And those are things that you want to avoid. Which comes to the next point, right? So, all right, so we've said avoid the canola oils, the soybean oil, etc. That stuff does occur in condiments, right? So mayonnaise and barbecue sauces and such. If you can afford to, I mean, there are some products out there that are really good.
Avocado mayonnaise.
Yeah, there's some avocado mayonnaise. It's a Primal Kitchen makes it. I think that's Mark Sisson's brand he started off. And so their ingredients are really good and they're pricey. And they used to be only you get those at places like Whole Foods, but now they're selling them.
Target's starting to sell.
Target and Walmart, and the prices come down so that they're much more affordable. The other side is the reason that they're available in Walmart and Target now is I believe that company got bought out by Heinz and Kraft, which is one company now. So for now, the ingredients are okay. But over time that might change. So you'll have to keep an eye on those ingredients in there, so they're actually a lot closer in price to say Duke's mayonnaise now and Heinz, Kraft, all those that are available. So I mean there are more options now. But even if they're not available for you, I mean remember we talked about before is not to be adding a lot of fat to your diet anyway. So if you're just say you're out and about and you can only find a packet of Kraft mayo to put on your food, once in a while that's probably all right. It's just this is not something you want to just be habitually doing. You want to limit the amount of exogenous fat that you're adding to your diet anyway. And if you are going to add some exogenous fat, things that are great would be butter and tallow and sometimes even lard. Even lard's a little bit questionable because it's coming from pig, which is higher in omega-6. Depends on what they're being fed. But the thing is, I wouldn't be so overly concerned about that as long as you're eating primarily, meat and vegetables as your focus on what you're eating.
You still have cut out the processed foods. That's.
If I think about where we were, a year ago, where we were eating a lot more processed
still improvement from where you were.
We're doing great. If I have to occasionally have a packet of Kraft mayonnaise on my meat when I'm out to eat or something, it's not adversely affecting me. So we're doing okay, right? And it's the thing, though. Everybody's different, and there might be that you get impacted differently than I do, or that Shaman does.
We've still lost the weight and kept it off for almost a year now. So
we're maintaining, and that's what's important. All right. Another caveat is if you have autoimmune disease or IBS or any of these other ailments that might be associated with like a leaky gut, which has been, it's kind of been shown that a lot of these oils and things like that are impacting you. It might be good to just completely walk away from that stuff for 30 days. Give yourself an elimination diet for 30 days with no condiments.
We pretty much went carnivore for
even vegetables, things like that might be irritating your bowel. It might be good to just step away for those a while and just see how you react. And then you might be able to reintroduce some of those things. And we've been able to. So I think that's one thing I can say for sure. Remember, I had ankylosing spondylitis, had it bad, was on Humira and all sorts of medications for it that I'm not on anymore.
And I was.
If I have to go back on those, by God, I'm going to back off any omega-6 oils. I mean, that's fine. I can monitor that. I can watch what I'm doing.
Yeah, if we start having more inflammation, I'll do the same.
That's right. So just keep that in mind. Everybody's different. Keep an eye on your inflammation. If you start having more inflammation, then you can make adjustments, right? All right, okay, remember we're talking about being perfect on keto. Really popular right now in the keto movement is the carnivore movement, right? And like I said, we've done it. I think we did 2 months. We almost ate no vegetables, right? We were pretty much fully carnivore, and there was reasons for it. It really did help a lot of things in Shauna's life. She had IBS, inflammation-wise, it helped, and now we're able to start reintroducing. But if you think, you'll hear in the carnivore world, you hear about oxalates, lectins, and phytonutrients, or also known as anti-nutrients. All that is absolutely true, right? Those things are within your vegetables. And I think in our case, we were vegetarians for a few years. And so we had lots of exposure to those things. And we just were really doing a lot of damage, right? I was very inflamed. Shauna had IBS like you wouldn't believe, right? And grains are another thing that were greatly contributing to that. So by going on excluding those from our diet for a while, I think allowed our gut to heal, right? So we were able to now slowly introduce some vegetables, right? So now we can eat a little bit of
my vegetables.
cauliflower,
I'm not going to
green pepper, and things like that.
But if I start having issues, I'll cut them out again.
Mm-hmm. That's right. So, I mean, everything's an N equals 1, right? You're kind of doing self-experimentation on what types of food impact you. I mean, pretty straight across the board, we know carbohydrates were killer for us, right? So we don't have to keep testing with that. We know that's off the table. Right?
All that processed junk.
Mm-hmm.
Get the garbage out.
Another thing, even indigestion, GERD is a problem that vegetables can cause for a lot of people. So by getting those out of our diet,
ones that get me still.
Right. So cabbage is one that kind of impacts you. So you just have to be really careful.
It even got you last time.
It did. So. It did. So that's what those things I stay away from. Especially raw cabbage. Raw cabbage seems to be a real beast for me. So I just try to avoid it. All right. Hello, Kathleen. Glad to see you can join us as well. All right. So like I said, we were vegetarians, and the way that we look at it now is meat is what we eat for nutrition. Right. So we are focused on meat, and then for us, plants or vegetables are for decoration and flavor. Right. So we might add a little spices and have some Brussels sprouts or something now with our meal, but it's not the focus of our meal, right? As a matter of fact,
the focus is that meat.
It's that meat. And we are, we follow Dr. Eric Westman's protocol, and his protocol pretty much calls for using, fatty meats and vegetables as your main source of nutrition, and that's pretty much what you eat, and then have the occasional, something else, but we're not adding other fats. We're just eating those types of foods pretty well. And it's pretty.
Kathleen said cabbage problem even cooked.
Yeah, for some people it is.
I have the same issue.
Yeah. All right. So the next on our, this keto have to be perfect list would be processed meats. Again, this varies person to person, right? So I have to look at it in this way. We focus on eating, regular, high quality meats, beef, lamb, fish, those type of things. Steak, those are things we have. But occasionally we might have bacon or lunch meat, as a go between. But it's not our main focus, right? And so we're not eating 2 pounds of bacon a day.
Right.
Some people can, right? I mean, that's fine. I'm not worried so much about, when people freak out about nitrates in your meat. There's nitrates in vegetables too. As a matter of fact, a lot of the ways that they add nitrates, for flavor and preservation to bacon is using celery powder. So if you're maybe a vegetarian saying, well, nitrates are bad or bacon's bad because it has nitrates, well, so does celery. So are you making the same argument for celery that you shouldn't eat celery because of nitrates? Just asking, okay? So I don't think nitrates are really a big deal. Some people worry about the salt content or whatever. All right, well, fair enough. I don't think it's a big deal. I don't think that the science is settled on that. I think there's just been a lot of claims that have been made, but you should check yourself. If you notice that if you have higher salt content and your blood pressure goes up, maybe that's something that you need to worry about. It doesn't impact everybody the same. Is the point. Remember,
it doesn't bother us.
Right. Our goal is less than 20 grams of carbs a day. That's what we're shooting for. And so when we're looking at if we have to eat processed meats, whether it be beef jerky or lunch meat or things like that, we're going to be looking at that label.
Out and about, and that's the best thing you can get.
Yeah, it's a lot
It's better than eating a
than,
bag of chips.
yeah, it's better than a bag of chips. It's better than eating, the fried chicken nuggets or something like that. It's not ideal, maybe not 100% ideal, but sometimes that's what you got to do. But do look at the label, right? So there's some beef jerkies that I've seen. You just think, oh, that's pretty much beef, but they're like they've got teriyaki sauce or brown sugar.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking about if it's got 1 or 2 grams of carbs. I've seen some that have like 14 grams of carbs for a serving of beef jerky. Yeah, run away from that one. Try to get the one that's got the 1 or 2 grams if you can. And if it's got 0, that's even better. But those are hard to find sometimes. So
it's something we eat once in a while, where we don't eat it.
That's not common. But again, that's one of those things we have. All right, the next point about perfect keto would be sweeteners. Obviously, you're wanting to avoid sugar, right, as a sweetener. I mean, that's pretty obvious that if you're eating sugar, your carbohydrate content is going to go up, right? And so you should definitely avoid sugar, sucrose, anything over the table, but also allow anything fructose related, whether it be coconut sugar, honey, agave syrup, any of those things, maple syrup, all of those, your body doesn't differentiate between that and table sugar, right? It treats a sugar carb as a sugar carb. So you really should, that's a no-brainer. Avoid those stuff. And there's other artificial sweeteners that also typically tend to make people, their blood glucose spike as well. That maltitol being one for us. So a lot of the candies that you buy have maltitol, which is full of sugar alcohols, and it still acts pretty much like sugar, right? And
I ate some, and my sugar was going up.
So we just, cut that stuff out.
Now I make my own little desserts.
The other's controversial,
a
little bit controversial. If you're looking at like Splenda, which is sucralose and aspartame and things like that, Dr. Eric Westman's not against them necessarily. I think that they might, hold your sweetness addiction a little bit too long. So that's why we try not to eat too much of them. The testing that's been done has been done on mice and rats, and they've been giving like mega doses of this stuff. And so it's not really a fair test to say that any of these might cause some sort of a health issue because you're not eating that much of it. Especially things like stevia, which you need such a minuscule amount of to make something sweet. It's hard to get a mega dose of that. So just keep that in mind.
I have a major sweet tooth.
Mm-hmm.
So we've come up with a mousse we make with cream cheese and heavy whipping cream.
And we use erythritol, which is, actually it's Truvia, which is like a little bit of stevia. That's a case where you don't need much stevia to make it sweet. The erythritol is just kind of to balance the flavor.
And we use berries too.
Yeah, and berries. So, and again, that's pretty rare. Maybe a once a week, once every other week type thing. It's just not. We're not doing this every day, right? We're not eating, sweet stuff, sweet snacks every day. The idea of this is we don't want people to get derailed by the keto police, right? So, and we want this to be a long-term issue, like it has been for us, want to be for other people as well. And that long-term piece would be like, if you're out and you accidentally bite a potato that's on your plate, oh my gosh, we're not throwing you out of the keto club, right? The point is you try to stay under your 20, do it consistently, be very consistent about your diet. It's more beneficial for you. It's 5 days on, 2 days off means that it's gonna take time for you to get back into ketosis. Be consistent about it, but find the keto that works for you, right? Not everybody practices keto the same. We have people that are carnivores. We have people that
find what works for you.
Right. That do the high-fat version of keto, where they're trying to really track their macros and stay within like 70 grams of fat a day, or 70% of fat in their diet a day. I mean, if that's what you need to do, especially if you're doing it for other reasons besides weight loss. So if you have epilepsy or you have autism, that higher fat content might be more important for you, not for weight loss purposes, but for overall health. It helps your inflammation stay down, and things of that nature because you're keeping your ketones up. And in those cases, even exogenous ketones might make sense. That's really, different than weight loss, right? That's, that's really, different for people.
Right.
Different people have different needs. And Paula says that dairy might need to be excluded. And, we have excluded it at times, and we've added some back in. It's really not, we're not seeing any difference in our inflammation. If we did, then we would cut it out, right? So that's one of those things. We are just kind of keeping track of ourselves. If we start seeing changes that we don't like, we can always make adjustments. Dairy doesn't impact everybody the same. And, that's all I got to say on that. It's different for different people. If we had access to goat milk and goat cheeses, we would use more of those, but that's just not something that's an option so much here in the United States. And like I said, we're not seeing negative impacts from it. Our weight is staying stable, and that's what we're shooting for. We're really not, it's kind of slowed down a little bit, but there's more to that than just dietary. There's other things that are going through, that have other impact too.
A little life adjustment.
Life adjustments are definitely make things different, right? So that's it. So pretty much that was our topic today. Do you have to stay perfect on keto? The only perfection that I can say that you need to maintain would be that
we're still doing better than we were.
Yeah, your carbs need to stay, in your range to be in ketosis, right? So for me, that's less than 20 grams of carbs per day. So that is the perfection that I absolutely have to have. A little, whether I eat vegetables or I eat some, mayonnaise or things like that is negotiable, right? Sometimes, though, they might have negative impact. I'm saying you're probably better off limiting those things. But if you have occasional packet of mayonnaise or occasional heavy whipping cream in your coffee, if it's not adversely impacting you, then I would say,
you're
do
still
it for
doing
you.
better than where you were before. Don't let other people judge you from where you're at. If it works for you, you do what's right for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, we're going to have disagreement on that. It doesn't mean but that's okay. Everybody, like I said, you do the keto that works for you. And we're doing the keto that works for us. And, we're coming up on a year now. I mean, things are doing very well. Things are working for us. We're able to sustain. Being able to sustain is what matters. This is not something that you treat as a temporary weight loss thing. This is a lifestyle thing, right? And overall, the benefits are huge, right? So, I mean, we could go into it. I mean, inflammation being gone is one thing. The weight loss, of course. Overall, better health. Those type of things are very important.
87 pounds, 61.
Yeah, I mean, 87 pounds is nothing to sneeze at. 61 pounds is amazing, especially for a woman, a postmenopausal woman.
Before I was having trouble walking. I'm not. I have some hip pain still, but it's definitely an improvement.
Yeah. So I mean, the point is feeling better, giving it the best health that you possibly can be, and that's really what the goal is, right? And the other thing is watching other people, how they can improve their life as well by your influence. People are watching what you do, whether you realize it or not. They take notice. I mean, yesterday we went and we saw some friends we hadn't seen in a long time for I think 3 years.
They were shocked.
Yeah, you forget that you look different than you did the last time you saw them. You walk in the door and they're like, "Whoa,
holy crap.
What happened to you guys? You guys lost a lot of weight." And so, what it was, we went and played poker, right?
Excuse my French.
It's okay, I speak French.
It's from playing poker, man.
Yeah, we played poker, and it was a lot of time. By the way, won second place. So I think even clears my mind up playing, doing keto, right? So you're not thinking about the snacks and having to eat all the time. Your brain is clear because you're not having to worry about your next meal or your next snack, those type of things. So yeah, the benefits are huge. We really would like to see more people within our circle of influence and family, taking advantage of that. We we had a friend of ours this week die of cancer. No, you know, I'm not saying it's diet related. She was also a heavy smoker. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do within your body to, you know, to not, you know, like we talked about these oxidized
very emotional
omega-6
for
oils.
me anyways.
We know that stuff's not good, right? And we would love to see people get away from those and get away from their dependence on sugar, because we know it's just not good. We know that this is having, you know, this obesity epidemic we have in the United States and around the world is terrible, and we would like to see people not be impacted by that, right? So we're doing what we can. That's why we keep broadcasting videos. That's why we keep talking about it, and we also want to make it approachable for the average human, right? The average human cannot be perfect, right? They are going to need to find a food source and things like that they can sustain, right? And so being overly perfect sometimes can be.
And I'm not going to
a
judge
deterrent.
others for where they're at.
Mhm.
Yeah.
If I did have something to say, I would say to avoid would be avoiding processed foods, and that includes processed keto foods, right? So that means you go and you find that keto protein bar or whatever. They're still made of really processed stuff. They're still full of a lot of oils and
A lot of
ingredients and chemicals that you just don't need, right? So just try to eat meat. Try to eat, you know, single ingredient foods as much as you can. I think overall that's the secret, right? It's not about trying to be perfect. It's about trying to be as good keto as you can. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the really good. And you can eat really good and be really satisfied and sustained. All right, guys. Anything else you can think of?
No.
All right, guys. Well, we're going to give you back the rest of your Sunday. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Thank you for watching.
And we're going to say, Keto Mojo Go Go out.